Good evening. We bring you the latest in the world of sports, and we bring you the conversations you want to hear from your favorite icons and athletes. I'm Bea Diaz-Fabros. In tonight's Game Plan, Coach Chot Reyes shares how Gilas Filipinas is preparing for the 2023 FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers. Then, Dylan Ababu joins us to give us early predictions for the 2022 NBA playoffs. Who will win MVP and who will reach the NBA Finals? And lastly, we go inside the game with PBA legend Sean Chambers to talk about the impact of the Alaska Aces franchise on the PBA. Buckle up, sports fans. Let's get in the game. Today is officially day one of the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers here in Manila. And joining us tonight as my co-host is PBA champion Willie Wilson. Coach, I'm so happy to be partnering with you tonight.
It's always exciting to be here on the game. Thank you for having me.
That's right, and we're very much excited. Now on to some headlines. The Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas has officially received word that Korea will no longer send a team to compete in the window hosted in the Philippines. SBP President Al Panilio said they sympathize with Korea and understand the difficulties of dealing with COVID-19. Panilio also hopes for a quick recovery for those affected. He adds he is looking forward to hosting and playing against India and New Zealand. Now, as the Philippines officially begins hosting the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers, joining us live for the latest from the SBP Press Con is the game's most handsome resident anchor, our correspondent for today, Paolo Del Rosario. Gabi Pao, I hope you're happy with that intro that you created for yourself.
Yeah, you know what? They say most handsome resident anchor. I'm the only resident anchor, so that's not a big bar to beat. Yeah, but so I'm at a loss of where to start. So they had a press conference at Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas for the trophy presentation, trophy appearance rather, the Naismith Trophy, and also just to give a quick update on how the hosting is working out here for the upcoming 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup. They had a joint management committee summit just recently alongside with FIBA officials and had found a way to align themselves with the other hosts in Indonesia and in Japan. Now, based on all the conversations, they're saying that the plans so far have been agreed upon. Everything's been working smoothly, no real conflicts of interest with regards to any of the three hosts. So it's all speed ahead going up to the hosting for the FIBA Basketball World Cup here in the Philippines. But then remember, we are still 500 plus days away to the actual events, a lot of things to happen. And the thing that the fans can actually get into very shortly is the fact that there is a ticket launch already happening on March 1 for the team passes. So you can actually purchase tickets for the upcoming FIBA Basketball World Cup and be able to follow Gilas Filipinas all the way to hopefully a deep run in the knockout stages. Faye.
That's right. Thank you, Pao. That was Paolo Del Rosario giving us the latest from the SBP Press Con. Now, we are all definitely excited to see our Gilas Filipinas back into action. Now, as we await to finally see them again on court, head coach Chot Reyes shares the preparations and pivots Gilas Filipinas had to do to get ready for the tournament. Now, let's watch this.
Preparing for the Korea for almost a week already because we thought that we were going to play them twice. So unfortunately, the bulk of our game twice. Like I said, we've built this team for versatility and agility from day one. We've talked about the value and the need for us to be very agile in our approach and in our thinking. And so this is a great test. What now appears to be a game versus India, our first game. So this is going to be a good test of our ability to adjust very quickly. With 4 games, I was very confident, and we had a pretty good idea and a plan on how to play all 15 players on the roster. Now with 2 games, admittedly that's going to be a problem. There's going to be some discussions that we have to make, some decisions that we have to make as a coaching staff. For me personally, I was really looking forward to playing all 15 in the 4 games. Find even just a few minutes for several guys who've never had an opportunity to actually play in an actual FIBA game before. But now that's a problem. We still haven't decided. It's a work in progress. We'll really basically know when game time.
Okay. O, ito, sasama ka sa tao mo. Ready ka mag-rotate. Pag yan, pag umatake na, yung umatake yan, hinatake mo yan. Once nag-dribble na siya? Yeah.
Over the years, right before our eyes, we have seen India develop and grow into a legitimate basketball competitor. Their skills have tremendously improved, and the way with Coach Matic now with them, we know that we're certain that they are going to be very well coached, very well prepared. A couple of guys there, the Singh brothers, and their veteran, is 30, 31 years old, but we've seen them for 10 years already, 11 years. So they've been together for a decade already. So you can imagine the kind of chemistry and game familiarity they've built with each other. So that alone is a cause for us to make sure that we will take our best to be able to compete against them.
Had a very good high energy practice today, gentlemen. We gotta bring it in. We gotta make sure that we sustain and build it up. One more tomorrow, we'll be ready to play on Friday. Okay, gentlemen, good work, good work, good work. Here we go, Laban Filipinos!
After the break, Dylan Ababu joins us to give his early predictions for the 2022 NBA playoffs. Who will win MVP? Who will reach the NBA Finals? Stay tuned. You're watching The Game.
Welcome back to The Game. As we are always a fan of the NBA, be sure not to miss the action this weekend. The star-studded Brooklyn Nets take on Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks on Sunday. Then it's Luka Magic versus Chef Curry as the Mavs battle the Warriors on Monday. As we get set for the NBA's return following the All-Star Weekend 2009, UAAP MVP Dylan Ababu joins us tonight to give his early predictions for the 2022 NBA playoffs. Dylan, good evening and welcome to the game.
Good evening, Bea. Thank you very much for having me, Coach Willie.
All
How
right.
are you doing? The Big D. Big D in the house.
All right, Dylan, let's start it off with the favorite team of Coach Willie Wilson. And actually, I just found it out a while ago, Coach Willie. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, you mentioned that actually at the end of the regular season, they will finish at number 7. Now, to give you context, they're actually at number 9 now. And they also have Anthony Davis out for 4 weeks. So why do you think that they will climb up to number 7, Dylan?
Well, I think LeBron can't do it all. He's really depending on AD, and unfortunately, he'll be out for a month, right? So, yeah, I think the Lakers will land at number 7, but I don't think they're gonna go all the way.
Dylan, do you possibly think, is there a chance that they can climb up even further to number 6 and hopefully miss the play-in tournament? As we all know, being at number 7 or number 8, it's a twice-to-beat advantage to still make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, that could be a possibility, but I think it's gonna be hard because I think Denver is on 6th and Dallas. So I think they're gonna have a hard time. I think they're gonna be on the 7th or 8th spot.
You know, actually, I honestly think it'll be difficult for them to even reach number 8. So saying number 6 and 7 for me is actually a long shot.
You're breaking my heart right now.
But you
You're
know, I'm
breaking
just
my heart.
saying, you know, the facts is right. But
Yeah,
you know,
I feel you.
going on to the next Dylan, let's talk about Ja Morant. You mentioned that he will be the most improved player. Why do you think he will win this award?
Well, you can see his highlights, and Ja Morant is already a very good player, but I think he outperformed his old self.
Right,
He
right,
really
Agreed.
bettered himself this year, and I think he's one of the future superstars of the league.
You know, it's a known fact that we all wanted to see Ja Morant in the slam dunk contest, right? But him as the most improved player, how does he earn that after being Rookie of the Year, averaging almost 20 points per game last year? I mean, obviously he's up to almost 28 points per game. I actually see him as an MVP candidate. I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, of course. I'm also rooting for Ja Morant. It's just like, I think there's no second place. That's why he deserves the
Yeah, there you
most
go.
improved player award.
There you go.
Exactly.
There
I
you go.
think that eventually he'll get that MVP award. But this year, in this particular season, I think he definitely deserves that most improved player. Now, let's talk about your MVP. Now, you mentioned that Joel Embiid will be MVP of this season. Why do you think he'll get that award?
Well, I admire Nikola Jokic a lot, but I think Joel Embiid should have gotten the MVP last year. But now I think it's his time. I think he's healthier than last year, and you can see he's more confident right now and more dominant.
You know, it's only fitting that a former MVP like yourself gets to talk about who will possibly win the MVP in the NBA this season. But we all know with the new addition of James Harden coming on, do you think that James Harden joining the team will possibly cause a decrease in production for Joel Embiid, which could possibly knock him out of the MVP race?
Well, I don't think so, because I think James Harden understands that it's Joel Embiid's team.
Okay.
He's like more of a reinforcement, like a superstar reinforcement. So I think he's gonna understand that, and I think he wants to get a knock for the championship game.
Well, definitely. You know, I think that it's Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic who's really gunning for that MVP award. Pero alam mo ba, Coach Willie, kompleto yung listahan ni Dylan eh. Yung individual awards niya, he even mentioned Coach of the Year would be the Cavs coach, Coach JB Bickerstaff. The Rookie of the Year would be Evan Mobley from the Cavs.
Agreed.
Sixth man will be Tyler Hero. And then we have the back-to-back, hopefully, Defensive Player of the Year in Rudy Gobert. So, tingnan natin kung talagang matutupad ang inyong prediction, Dylan. But then, what I really want to discuss is the conference finals now. You mentioned that in the East, it would be the Bucks versus the 76ers. Let's talk about that. Why did you choose these teams?
Well, I think the Bucks and the 76ers are more mature than the Heat and, of course, the Bulls. I think it's not yet the Heat and the Bulls year. And especially the Chicago Bulls, I think they're still a young team. Of course, the Milwaukee Bucks already won it all last year, and Sixers are of course stronger because of James Harden. I think they're gonna face each other in the conference finals.
You know, there's something that we still need to discuss with regards to the 76ers. Obviously, we've had the discussion before when we were talking about Brooklyn and the 76ers. Again, I still have a hard time seeing how Harden and Embiid will fit together. You know, obviously, there's going to be pick and rolls. Embiid is not the typical pick and roll partner that Harden is used to. At the same time, defense. How does the defense work? Please, I mean, you're going to have to do a little bit more convincing to get me on board.
Well, I just think that Harden will really be a threat because if Joel Embiid is not free, of course, Harden will be scoring. So it's going to be like more of a disadvantage for the other teams.
And you definitely know a lot about scoring.
I'm sure.
You're my favorite.
But then, you know, we all know that the teams are stacked in the East. It will be interesting how everything will pan out. But for the Western Conference Finals, you chose number 1 and number 2 teams seeded so far, the Warriors versus the Suns. Tell me a little bit more about this, Dylan.
Well, for me, the Suns will really win the Western Conference. I just picked the Warriors because of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson is finally back, and I don't think it's Memphis here right now. The other teams, I'm not really confident.
Like my Lakers.
Our Lakers.
Yeah, I like our Lakers. There you
I'm
go.
a LeBron fan, so
Okay.
it's just that.
Well, you guys play the same. That's why.
The mini LeBron.
Yeah.
Come on, it's just that there are a lot of injuries with the Lakers right now.
Okay, well, you know, with regards to the Suns, we know that Chris Paul is injured. And he's going to be out for a long, long time, possibly coming back for the playoffs. I know they're far ahead with regards to the standings, but is there a possibility that they drop in the standings?
Not really, because I think without Chris Paul, the team already gelled very well. They had a lot of chemistry coming from the very painful loss from last
Yes,
year's
very painful.
NBA final. I think they matured a lot.
Okay.
Well, you know, kumpleto nga talaga ang listahan ni Dylan dahil hanggang champion ng NBA meron siya. You mentioned that the Phoenix Suns will be the champion of the NBA. So we're very interested to find out if that will actually really happen.
I know.
But for that, Dylan, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're
Thanks.
very happy to have you share with us your predictions for the NBA playoffs. Again, don't miss the NBA action this weekend. The star-studded Brooklyn Nets take on Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks on Sunday. Then it's Luka Magic versus Steph Curry as the Mavs battle the Warriors on Monday. After the break, we go inside the game with PBA legend Sean Chambers as he relives his favorite memories playing for the Alaska Aces. Keep it here, you're watching The Game. You're watching The Game. As the Alaska Aces continue their last dance in the PBA this conference, our very own Paolo Del Rosario caught up with 6-time PBA champion and former best import Sean Chambers. The Alaska legend relived his favorite moments with the franchise while describing the impact of the Aces on Philippine basketball in the latest edition of Inside the Game.
Alaska legend and fresh from his own basketball game right now that's going on where he's at his part of the world. Obviously, sad moment in Philippine basketball. The Alaska Aces franchise, Alaska franchise, after all these years, all the history, finally saying goodbye to the PBA. I saw reports that Sir Fred Uitingso actually called you, messaged you personally to tell you about the news. How did you react when you first heard it, and how's that conversation like?
Yeah, I think a lot of people saw the first couple articles that came out where Mr. Uitensu sent me a text message and said he wanted to have a conversation with me via a telephone call. So I instantly knew there was something going on. I didn't know if it was with the team or whatever, but I kind of knew it was a serious phone call. I thought maybe I really thought maybe we want to make a serious trade. He wanted to get my opinion about potential trade here. And then when I picked up the phone, he was like, "Chambers." That's kind of our little joke with all my teammates and your dad back in the day, you know. Instead of saying Chambers, they call me Chambers, you know. So I go, "Wow, let me guess real fast. You sold the team." And he was like, "Well, I'm not going to sell it because I want to keep our legacy the way it is." And so I was like, well, you know, everything comes to an end. And you know, it felt like I said, it's like a death of the family because this has been part of my life since I've been 24. You know, even after my retirement in 2001, Mr. Uitensu, Fred, Tim, back in the day, Coach Tim, when he was still with Alaska, they kept me on as a consultant, although be far away. And every time we had to go in scouts imports or go to the NBA G League and scout imports in Vegas Summer League, I was paid by the organization to go do that job for them. And as you know, I brought in several imports like Diamond, and I brought over quite a bit of our imports that we had in the recent cups. So the honor was, I was sad, but I instantly knew how special this journey was. I knew the brotherhood that I built with those guys, with Johnny, Joe Las, Bon Hawkins, Puigno, Ruel Gomez, you know, the entire Jun Reyes, Jeffrey Carriazo, and on, Rodney Santos. It was like that brotherhood was so unique, and the team was so unique in what we did and accomplished, that I'm so blessed to have been able to play for Alaska. You know, I'm so honored that God put me in that organization, and we played with integrity and we won the right way.
When you look at how the franchise has unfolded, you look at the history, you look at all of the rings and all of the accomplishments that had. Is there any particular moment that you're most proud of? I know the Grand Slam's the easy answer, but then what are you most proud of with your association with the franchise?
The Grand Slam, you know, is an easy answer, but winning our first championship is one of the best memories of all times. Because that's such a hard one to get. When you get your first one, and then you build from there. But honestly, coming back in '94 when we started our string of championship is also very memorable to me because we beat Sunkiss, and they were on a nice little roll there. But we had that drop from '91. And then we didn't win a championship to '94. Then after '94, we went on a 5-year stretch. So getting that first one, and I'll have to also say this, my challenge as an import was to repeat every year. Yeah. You know, repeat, because a lot of guys get comfortable, they make a little bit more money, and then they forget what got them there. And so I didn't want to let my guys down, and so I always want to make sure I repeat every year. Come here, I wanted you to say hi to my son real fast.
Hey. So, hey, how are you?
Say hello to the Philippines.
Hello, Philippines.
Well, you know, your dad was a legend. I hope you know that.
Yeah. So I did want to give him some airtime in the Philippines. So we're going to bring him back still today. If Alaska make a run, Mr. Uitensu is going to fly us all back, and we're going to go back in and have a good little reunion party.
Yeah, and that sounds great, Coach. Looking at the history, looking at the Alaska franchise, Coach Tim actually mentioned that it'll be unnatural to see the PBA without Alaska. What do you feel is maybe the biggest legacy that the Alaska franchise is leaving on the footprint of Philippine basketball, because it was such a big part of it?
Well, we appealed to a certain group of fans out there. We were definitely kind of like the Milk Boys. We were the good guys, you know. We were the good guys that were always taking down the big programs, and we were always known as the Ginebra Killers. And here comes the Milkman and taking down the Gin Master. So, you know, we were always recognized as being a very tough-minded team that played the right way, but we were very committed to one another. I think for not having Alaska, it's like you need somebody to compete against the big boys. You need somebody that's gonna come out there and upset those guys every now and then, and to keep the PBA to what it used to be in the '90s. If you don't have those independent teams that can come up there and shake it up and beat some of these teams. It just doesn't have the same fire that it used to have back in the day, right?
Is there anything you want to say to the Alaska fans out there whose hearts are hurting right now? Because I'm sure they are.
This is really a sad moment for them. I'm sad and I'm heartbroken mostly for the fans because I know how much they support us and I know how much they live and die with our wins and losses and our success. And they're the first one that's going to pick us up when we're down. And my heart really does break for them because once you're an Alaska fan, as you know, you're an Alaska fan. You don't jump over to Pure Foods. You don't jump over to San Miguel. You don't jump to Ginebra. You are an Alaska Aces fan for the rest of your life. And really, I mean, it's tough, man. It's really sad. Every now and then I get a little bit of a little teary-eyed when I think mostly about the fans because they were so dear to me and they were so supportive my whole career. And when I come back to Manila, it's like, again, like I was still there just 2 days ago, you know? So, I mean, mahakita talaga, you know, I love the fans and I want to maraming salamat po for all their support and I don't know, my heart really breaks for the fans and I just cannot thank them enough for who I am today and for all the support they have given me.
Again, between us, thank you again for getting my dad to Alaska back in the day. So,
no, walang problema. He knows me.
All right. Yeah, he does. He definitely does. Chambers, thank you very much for joining us here. Really appreciate you.
Brother. Take care.
Meanwhile, here are some updates from Day 2 of the second MVP Foundation Badminton Cup. In men's singles, Raby Jason Obaob advances to face Jewel Angelo Albo in the semis, while Mark Anthony Velasco will take on Ross Leonard Pedrosa. In men's doubles, the tandem of July Villabril and Solomon Padiz will take on John Matthew Bernardo and Michael Adrian Clemente, while Christian Bernardo and Paul John Pantig will battle it out with Alvin Morada and James Villarante. In women's singles, Micaela Joy de Guzman advances to the semis to take on Anthea Marie Gonzalez, while Sarah Joy Barredo will go up against Janelle Ann Andres. In the doubles division, Thea Marie Pomar and Arya Nicole Albo will take on Althea Rio Fuentespina and Danielle Aubrey Masongong. Meanwhile, Susmita Angelique Ramos and Eleanor Inlayo will battle it out with Joshelle Alvarez and Andrea Princess Hernandez. The semis and finals will happen tomorrow, Friday, February 25.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Willie Wilson.
Catch us weeknights here on One News, One Sports, and One Sports Plus. I'm Bea Diaz Fabros, and this has been The Game.